Okay, wonderful. So that fantastic film was from your studio or from Rehab, excuse me. And today we have Rob Bennett, who is the CEO of Rehab, here to talk us through the concepting and just additional insights regarding that video. So I'll turn it over to you, Rob.
Cool, thank you, Lauren. Our thinking around how to approach the world of retail in the environment that we find ourselves in now has really come from thinking through a sort of software and hardware solution approach. So based on the human behaviors that we can see happening right around us around the world today, combined with the technology we're seeing being brought to the fore, what experiences will people be needing or anticipating, and what can retailers do to deliver that for consumers? And so we've started off with thinking around what technology and hardware people have, and obviously mobile devices is our main focus for that video you just watched. At the beginning, we've thought about the value of an assistant, somebody or a being or an object that can talk you through the experience of shopping, help you to scan products, find out more information, and purchase the products all through the device in your hand. We then kind of step you through in the video to where you can get more detail, more expert advice. And that's where we've focused quite heavily on thinking about the experience the consumer needs to make a considered purchase decision, but where they haven't got access to someone in store to talk to as easily as before. This really was a problem that existed, in retail prior to COVID existing, but it's sort of exacerbated now, where people don't necessarily want to have the interaction with a person in a physical environment. So creating an easy experience that helps people to ask questions the way they want to ask them, but also get inspiration. So there's plenty of technology now available, and most of the stuff is embedded within Android, but a lot of it's coming to Apple too, where you're able to use the depth perception of your camera to render your environment that you live in. And then, although in this example we've shown you a sort of a shopping experience in when you're looking at flowers and things for the home, actually, if you think of an AR experience and how that might work, it's probably more applicable for things like home furnishings, like understanding how paint's going to look on your wall, how objects are going to look on tables. And the depth perception is so good now that you're able to do things like put objects on a table and knock it off a table. And so you're able to see depth and understand how things will interact with each other in an environment, move into the environment and have a look at it. So really sort of extending people's imagination and helping them understand how objects will work with them. There's also a lot of clever digital experience things that we can apply to this environment too, that we see when you're shopping online in normal shopping environments. So you're all really familiar when you're shopping through Amazon, where you're getting recommendations based on a purchase you're making. So people who bought this also like this. That kind of opens up the opportunity to do that as well, because we'll know visually what your environment looks like that you've scanned. We'll understand the textures and colors, but also the type of thing you're looking to buy, and then offer suggestions to complement your purchase and add some more to your basket. But outside of the 3D environment, that's equally as applicable through a conversational assistant that can kind of help you understand what you're looking for, and then recommend additional things to support you with what you're looking to buy. But then we've gone through into it. The next section there is thinking about how to help people navigate an environment that they're in. And there's a range of technology that will help with being able to do that, from AR experiences that will either leverage beacons or Wi-Fi environments or geolocation environments. You can access that now. You can try it out on Google Maps if you want to have a look at what that looks like in real life. But then also through to things like beacons. So the trend that's driving a lot of behavior in the last few months is around how to have a better direct consumer touch point. And in order to do that, things like beacons might have a resurgence. If you think about the best use case of beacons at the moment has been in places like Nighttown, where if you have a Nighttown app, you walk in the store, it recognizes you, knows your shopping habits and patterns, and will push you to the right environment in the store to fit your shopping needs, suggest offers, etc. we might see some of that coming through. But certainly with navigating through a store, what's interesting is it's not just visual. We're thinking about an audio experience that's interesting in when you're thinking about accessibility for those that are harder of sight, but also managing a store's flow and how many people are in what environments and helping navigate people around the environment. Other things to think about is if you know shoppers that come into your environment are looking for certain items, you can also direct them down aisles where there's maybe some higher value items that you think you want them to move past. Obviously that has to be a realistic journey, but I think that's interesting nonetheless. And then as we move towards the end of the experience, we're looking at things like how to make it really easy to pay. And last week, or sorry, 2 weeks ago, Apple have announced the new Apple Clips, which basically Google has had for a long time, but Apple now has released it, which means it will probably become more of a mainstream behavior. And all this is basically a small, light version of an app, but with all the native functionality of an app. The real benefit in retail is the combination of NFC now to understand products by moving your phone near a device, but also the benefit of being able to pay through Apple Pay and have things easily delivered to your home or to a self-serve checkout. So the technology is being brought through from the big tech companies that make this kind of environment much easier to access and to create better sort of experiences for consumers in this space. And it isn't anymore just edge case stuff that's out there and expensive to install. It's on people's phones. It's really easy to design these experiences and make them very accessible for people. And those behaviors you'll start to see becoming more prevalent as more retailers are using them and creating these experiences for consumers. I think consumers will expect them as well, because once you've had a good experience in one environment, it's frustrating to not be able to get a similar level of experience in another. So I think you're going to see a lot of behaviors in that environment, in this environment that follow that pattern. I think over to Lauren or Piers if there are any specific questions.
Fantastic. Thank you, Rob. That was all really great. I think it's very interesting to see how these like very future thinking technologies are much more commonplace today, and just how much consumers really want and need those. So thank you very much for those insights. So next up we have, I want to make sure if anyone has questions, Rob has a chance to answer them. But I think right now everyone's being a little shy about that. So if there are questions for Rob later on, we'll try and make sure there's time to answer those. So next up, we have from the creative agency YourStudio, we have Holly Simpson, who is the managing director of their London studio. And then we also have Tom Edington, who is their creative director at their London studio as well. So today they're going to show us a video that we have queued up that tackles the future of automotive. And if we have that ready. amazing. So that was wonderful. Thank you, Holly and Tom, for sharing that. And now if you both would, I know you have a few slides prepared, so if you'd like to take it away.
Thank you, Lauren. We'll just share this screen. Hopefully you can see the full screen.
Perfect. Okay, hi everyone, we're really thrilled to join you. I'm Holly and I'm Managing Director of YourStudio London, here with my colleague Tom. That was our vision of how physical and digital worlds converge into an experience so seamless, you're no longer conscious of channel. Experience driving a personalized car without ever leaving the showroom, in a showroom that knows your preferences before you even step over the threshold, with a brand that meets you on your terms, providing personalization and ongoing service long after you've left the physical space. There is no longer a distinction between digital and physical. They coexist as one. And this is no longer a distant future, but something we're faced with resolving right now. So at YourStudio, we found all of our design decisions in strategy and insight. We've seen the most rapid escalation of the digital world recently. COVID has catapulted global audiences into purely digital interactions with brands. We've seen a blossoming of conversation space purely online and seen digital innovations brought to life overnight. We can switch to the next slide. Perfect. What we've seen recently has really stopped us in our tracks and made us question traditional retail constructs. For example, a recent Google survey showed that 8 out of 10 car shoppers would consider buying purely online if that option was actually provided. But even before COVID, we saw consumers identifying how tech can help remove pain points within the traditional buying model. COVID has supercharged the need to consider a digital-first narrative to the consumer experience. Whereas previously, we've had the store as the kind of central beating hub to which all paths lead, we now see the store as an essential support act to quite a complex digital ecosystem inextricably linked with technology. If we just flip one more slide. So this is particularly relevant in automotive, which has long had the showroom experience as very central to the legacy buying model. As with numerous industries worldwide, automotives is a sector facing challenges on multiple fronts, compounded by COVID, with things such as shocks to the supply chain, rapid changes in demand, and shaken consumer confidence. But it's also an industry that employs around 59 million people worldwide, directly or indirectly, and contributes an estimated $5.5 trillion to the global economy. So the holistic customer journey needs to be recalibrated to meet this new consumer expectation and mindset. A new blend of physical and digital touchpoints are required, where they meet your customer at every step of their journey. And we now see the opportunity for re-emergence and an evolution for this sector, with brands as content creators, connectors, and conduits. Once the digital infrastructure is in place, this offers the agility the automotive sector has long been lacking, building community in responsive online conversation that helps transform initial connections into advocates. This dovetails with the physical showroom experience, where digital and physical are closely mimicked, and where multi-sensory experience in store is there to strengthen emotional connections and galvanize lifetime loyalty. So Overleaf, we've been looking at some of the re-emergence and opportunities for this sector in particular. Really, we're asking ourselves, how can we take the best of the digital legacy that COVID has created and bring that into an arena traditionally associated with the physical showroom experience and a very linear buying journey? So this was how A-Realm came to be and was created. And I'll hand over to Tom, who can bring to life that concept in a little more detail.
Just unmute myself. Classic, yeah. The classic Zoom intro. Thanks for talking us through that, Holly, and sharing the insights that have driven this concept. A-Realm is a concept that explores the world that has shifted, that we're in today, and especially the way that we're engaging with brands. It's great to follow on from Rob also, and the narratives that Rob was talking about in terms of how we're engaging with products in and out of store, because this is a concept which is really addressing all of those moments, and the full ecosystem, and how the future customer journey should really be shaped. So A-Realm is the ultimate automotive destination. It's a living portal creating enriched experiences of unrivaled joy. So here's an illustration of our full connected ecosystem that we've been working on YS, where you can see the grey areas are the online and the online pre-store and post-store journeys, and how all of those points are fully intertwined with the customer at the heart. And the customer will now be expecting to pull on and offline simultaneously and anywhere along the customer journey to be able to purchase, lease, or finance, if it's relating to automotive, anywhere along that journey. And then what we're seeing is brands having to shift how they use their physical store, and that will hopefully see, and we're starting to a shift of having less product to more rich non-transactional experiences. So A-Realm is a totally integrated ecosystem. It is an effortless, positive experience that removes the pain points. As I was just mentioning, we should be able to purchase anywhere, anyhow, and any way we want to. This transfers the power to the customer's hands, and as Rob was saying, generally within the customer's hand. The future vision concept that is approachable, diverse, and fluid. It's a concept that does not play into historical stereotypes. Very purposefully, along the whole way in which we've been designing this experience, we make sure that we are being provocative in our approach in designing these digital tactility within this landscape, not only online but in store, that really make sure that they buck the trend of those stereotypes. Gone are the masculine, hard and dark spaces of old, and we should see a lot more open, inclusive and approachable spaces. A-Realm is a digitally mature and tech-enabled world that allows for full lifestyle immersion. It should be supporting the customers along this full journey and allowing to give the brand a host for these moments of unrivaled joy that will create those emotional connections with your customers. A gamified platform that creates deeper relationships and digital connections, allowing that cross-pollination between your customers, that two-way dialogue and that conversation that Holly was talking about between the brand and the customer, so that they are co-creators. A-Realm is a future-proof solution that will allow for a continued evolution. So that was a very quick snapshot of a concept that's taken quite a while to create. And at YourStudio, we love combining design with innovation to really explore what's next. And we love to collaborate with our brands, especially in these hard times, to really champion creativity to navigate this landscape together. So we hope you found that quite provocative and interesting, and we'd love to have any questions if you guys have any immediate thoughts or questions, or would love to continue the conversation further another time.
Yeah.
So thanks, Lauren.
Amazing. Thank you, Holly and Tom. That was wonderful. While you were presenting, a few questions did come through. If Rob, if you want to hop back on here and maybe field a few of them, I'm thinking more questions are going to be coming through for you, Holly and Tom, as well.
Sure, yeah. So one of the first questions was, how will customers feel trust if they're not interacting with shop staff? Because obviously the shopping experience and being able to communicate with store staff helps you, often they're there to help you ask yourself the questions you didn't know you needed to ask yourself to feel the trust that you're making the right purchase. And with less access to store staff or without that smile, because there's going to be masks involved, how is that trust developed? I think that's a really good question. I think the conversational element of a chat experience, they're significantly better than they used to be, and I think they can do a lot. We built a product for a while ago for Nike on Nike.com that helps consumers ask the questions they didn't know they needed to ask, and helped increase the conversion to purchase, because people felt more confident they were buying the right product. Instead of having a massive skew of options, they're only having a few. I think that's really applicable to an in-store shopping experience. But also another massive benefit is the ability to look at customer reviews of those products. And you're seeing some really innovative businesses now that are bringing new products to market that help retailers. So one company that I'm watching at the moment, I think is very exciting, is called VEview, VEview, and basically they're mobile first customer reviews, video reviews of the products you're looking at. And I think things like that are really taking a consumer experience of what their shopping journey is really like, rather than just the Amazon review process of like reading comments. That isn't something that you may have time for or you want, but seeing someone actually using a product in a 60-second clip in their home and talking about the benefits or the cons of that product, I think those kind of products will really help build trust in a retail environment. Shall I jump on to another question?
Sure, if you want. And then I think we had one come through for YourStudio as well. So go ahead, Rob, and then we'll switch over.
Sure. So another question I had here was, how do you see AR evolving beyond what it currently provides for consumers in the short to long term? Briefly touched upon knocking over AR objects and what else is possible in the future. I definitely think that there's the ability to consider the use of AR and how it can create an educational experience from how you purchase something to post-purchase. So there are some really interesting AR experiences that help people use the product once they've bought the product and got it home. I think you can look at that from through your screen, looking at the environment you live in or you're considering using the product in, or through to how you apply things to yourself. So, makeup, AR experiences in store are an obvious first step. But I think there's lots of things beyond that around helping users get the best out of the product that they've bought or that they're using. I think there's also a lot of opportunity to sort of experiment with that sort of feedback loop that's giving you as a brand. So once you're creating these experiences and people are using them to understand how to use a product or get the best out of a product post-purchase with AR experiences, then do you do that as something that you can get some feedback and information about and start to behave a bit more like a tech company, feed that information around what users are asking for back into your business and start making decisions around new products based on that.
Awesome. Thank you, Rob. So something that came through for you, Holly and Tom, if you'd like to take a crack at. So how do you see the virtual boom influencing the physical experience?
You're on mute, Holly.
That should be our code name. We're on mute. But it's such a great question, because they're so inextricably linked now, and one just feeds from the other. So we're seeing a huge rise in things like obviously the virtual economy, but also gamification. So we're looking at that market growing at a rate of over 30% up to 2025, and going to be valued at around 32 billion. And really looking at how we can draw on huge trends that exist within those digital worlds and pull them back into the physical space and physical realm. So things like how it increases audience share and reach, just comes to mind with the Travis Scott video launch within Fortnite that reached like 12 million people joined Fortnite specifically to watch that event. And there's so many kind of cues and trends that we're like seeing converge literally as those two worlds like continue to intertwine.
Yeah, and to add to that, the virtual boom is really going to enhance the physical experience, because now there isn't that worry, and we've almost broken down some barriers with COVID in terms of the digitally literate as well. So having those digitally literate users flood back into those in real life experiences, they're going to be a lot more savvy and a lot more understanding of being able to have that mobile first approach, to be able to really get unlock experiences, and also to get those personalized experiences like Rob's mentioned, where we're using beacons or however we do that, but using data to create those positive engagements, and then really unlock and create something magical for a user that they wouldn't have really been able to experience online. The physical, as you can see what we did with A-Realm, we did create a digitally first environment that then we pulled it into our physical space, and we had windows into the digital. So we were constantly wanting to blur those boundaries, and creating that one ecosystem, that one world where a user would feel comfortable engaging in any way with any format.
Awesome. And then just as a follow-up to that question, someone sent through, how do you see the virtual gaming boom influencing the physical experience? So,
Yeah.
oh, I think that was a repeat. I apologize. So then for a follow-up, it was, do you think you're thinking around the enriched digital experiences applying to different retail sectors? So how can this kind of outside of just auto also exist?
Absolutely. So I think we kind of honed in on automotive because it's facing kind of numerous challenges, but it also represents quite a big ticket item with a very traditional linear buying journey. So we like a challenge. So we kind of took on that one because there's lots of kind of potential challenges that enabling the journey with tech can help to solve. But across the board, like we've just recently produced a report on the beauty industry. And it's absolutely fascinating how, again, there's so many points around looking at how that customer journey is being recalibrated and digitally enriched that could apply from the customer journey we've just looked at with automotive, and bring that into the beauty sector just purely as an example. So yeah, I think it really is like across the board now, like we've had this hiatus because of COVID where all of the brand narratives are digital, and now everybody needs to really recalibrate and look at how their customer journey needs to be reformatted to like retain the digital tribes that they've like grown online, and really resonate with the target consumer and this new values and mindset.
And I think across the sectors, everyone's going to be craving those experiences that we talked about, but also craving the tactile and sensory nature that often digital can't deliver. So that will be a real sweet spot, because we'll have the digital as the enabler with that integrated seamless technology that is really amplifying these environments and these experiences that should be being created cross-sector to really respond to the customer's wants and desires now.
I think to build on that as well, I think you're going to see consumer behavior changing. In living memory, we're not going to forget having to queue up to buy basic things that we need to live. And the fear of that is going to create the opportunity for lots of interesting new direct-to-consumer businesses. So conventional larger companies that have relied on retail space to be their distribution mechanic, they're going to have to really rethink things, because we're going to see brands like Deliveroo, Uber Eats, driving things to your door and giving you stuff from your local grocery store, where you would have gone out to an out-of-town supermarket once a week. I think all of that stuff is going to be really challenging conventional retailers to innovate and think differently. And And if you're going to be driving people into a retail experience, there has to be a lot of emphasis on the human experience within that environment. So exactly what Tom's point was around the tactile nature, and there has to be a payoff for you to go in there. You either need something that's convenient and that you're going to go in, be able to get information and transact quickly and leave, that's more convenient than Amazon delivering it to you within an hour or by the next day, or there has to be a real enjoyable experience for you to go and make the journey to do that. And things like Automotive spend so much energy considering the driving experience of the car and what it's like to drive the car. But if in all honesty, they've been very lazy over the last 20 years in really thinking about how much applying that level of consideration to the buying experience or the the digital use experience after that. When you look at apps that brands like Jaguar Land Rover, Audi have to help you navigate the journey of buying a car or even post owning a car, they're nowhere near the level of thought, energy or effort that's put in to the driving of the car environment. And I think we're going to see brands starting to realize that that's super important, and they're going to have to really rethink how they address consumers in those environments.
Definitely. So I think this is a great time for this last question that came through. Rob, you had started to touch on this in this last question, but do you see experiential retail still increasing in importance? How will that look in 2021? And I think it would be interesting to hear from you, Rob, and then Holly and Tom as well.
Yeah, I mean, for the right kind of brands, I think we're going to see a massive increase in experiential retail, because in order for people to leave their homes and not have the convenience of stuff delivered to their door, there's got to be a payoff. And if you look at brands that were behaving in a really interesting way before COVID, like, for example, Glossier, that would create a pop-up, make it hard to access, and then have queues around the block for people trying to get in to experience that environment. I think brands need to really think like disruptors and how they can create really interesting environments that will attract people into them. Obviously, the human interaction in that moment is going to be challenging. We've got to think about how those experiences are designed. But I think for the next 5-10 years, I think experiential retail is going to be a really interesting place to be in and to be designing experiences for.
Yeah. And just to kind of build on that, I think like we've had a live test and learn platform of what happens when you go to a singular channel, and it's really underscored the need for those kind of physical multisensory experiences. It's really highlighted what they're there for, and like that kind of fundamental need that we have to interact and in social venues. And so, as we kind of highlighted in the video, the brand, the store now represents that opportunity to really cement emotional connections with the brand. And as Tom said, there's certain things that, try as it might, digital won't be able to deliver purely online. So it's a fusion of those two things coming together. And we're talking to brands now about, really almost preparing for the experience boom that's looking like it's going to happen next year, where we see this kind of fulsome return to the physical experience with brands that have recalibrated their full customer journey and understand like how the customer wants to be met and interacted with at every touch point.
Also, just on that point that Holly's made me think of, this whole approach to experiential and how people will be shopping, there's Amazon really has created this final mile delivery system infrastructure globally, which means that in cities there are independent companies that can pick a package up from your warehouse and deliver it to a customer within an hour, potentially at a pop-up event or a retail environment. So you don't have to have massive stock inventory in your stores anymore. You can have stuff distributed across a city, and then you can be delivering it to consumers at home or in store, an environment they want to be in. One company worth looking at if you're interested in that is a San Francisco business called Dark Store, but there are lots of very similar businesses that are being really innovative in this kind of distribution model, supporting companies like Nike and or other brands, which will augment that kind of experience and make it cost effective, I think.
Yeah, that central fulfillment is something that has been happening because of COVID, and now it's gonna brands will have the opportunity to recalibrate even more, as you're saying, and that will just give us more space and more real estate really to create these memorable experiences in store that are truly unique to the brands. So that's going to be the pull, not the product. It's going to be these non-transactional experiences which really help brands stand apart, but creating them that are memorable and unique to each brand.
Amazing. Thank you all for so many interesting insights and perspectives. I think that is all for questions that we have so far. If anybody had any closing thoughts that they wanted to share, I think we have about a minute or so left.
I think that we obviously that video is designed to be slightly provocative as well, but we would really love to hear people's feedback and to continue the conversation really, and we're happy to kind of like play that again, or like send that around to people that might want to just kind of have a replay of it. It does contain quite a lot of like concepts and ideas all wrapped into 2 minutes, so very happy to reshare.
Yeah, and then from my side, I mean, whether you're watching this and you're in an agency or you're in a brand and you've got some budget worries in the short term, but ambition in the long term, I think now is a very exciting time to be taking the challenge that this sort of terrible virus has created, and then finding opportunities for either your clients or for brands that you work in, because you know, it's out of moments like this that really exciting new ways of doing things will come, and all kinds of things that are happening around us that will become normal behaviors for us in 2-3 years. And it's you know, really down to us combined to push that innovation and make those new behaviors happen, which I think, you know, it's a very exciting opportunity.
Agreed. Well, thank you all for joining us, and thank you everyone for listening in. If you have any questions that we didn't get to or missed in the chat, we'll circle back with you, and hope everyone enjoys the rest of the sessions. Thank you.
Thank you.